The Las Vegas Raiders got hit with some tough news today. Linebacker Christian Ellis, who many expected to be a key addition to their defense, will not be joining the team. Instead, the New England Patriots decided to match the Raiders' offer, securing Ellis on a 2-year deal that keeps him in New England until 2026. This unexpected move leaves the Raiders with a significant gap in their linebacker group, forcing them to rethink their options moving forward. Today, we're breaking down everything you need to know about the Christian Ellis situation and what it means for the Raiders. Could the team still try to trade for him? Are there any viable free agent linebackers still available? And most importantly, which players currently on the roster need to step up in a big way to compensate for this loss? The reality is that this decision by the Patriots caught a lot of people off guard. Many insiders and reporters in New England believe that Ellis was on his way out, with the Raiders planning to plug him into their starting lineup next to Elandon Roberts. But when a team chooses to match an offer sheet, it speaks volumes about how much they value the player. The Raiders were clearly willing to invest in Ellis, offering him a 1-year, $4.8 million deal, a massive increase compared to his previous salary. That kind of financial commitment indicates that the Raiders saw Ellis as a key piece of their defensive puzzle moving forward. And the fact that the Patriots responded so quickly to match that deal suggests they weren't willing to let him go without a fight. Now the big question is, could the Raiders still make a move to bring him in via trade? If we look at past examples, there is a precedent for trades happening even after a restricted free agent signs a new deal. A recent case that comes to mind is Jordan Mason. Although his situation was slightly different, he was given a second-round tender. The Minnesota Vikings swooped in and managed to work out a trade for the running back just days later. So while it's not a common occurrence, history shows that it's not out of the realm of possibility for a team like the Raiders to still try and acquire Ellis via trade. Of course, making that move would come at a cost. The Raiders would not only have to give up draft capital to acquire Ellis, but also take on the 2-year contract that the Patriots just signed him to. The front office would need to evaluate whether that investment makes sense compared to other available options. If they were already willing to give Ellis nearly $5 million for one season, it's clear they valued him highly. But does that mean they will be willing to sacrifice a draft pick to bring him in? That's the real question. If the Raiders decide against trading for Ellis, then they absolutely have to make a move elsewhere. This linebacker group is simply too thin to go into the season without adding another quality player. Can they address the position in the draft? Sure. But the Raiders have multiple areas of concern that might take priority in the 2025 NFL draft. If they don't have a plan to add someone soon, that's a problem. If they're just going to roll with the guys currently on the roster, that's not good enough. They need reinforcements, whether through free agency or a trade. Speaking of free agency, if the Raiders want to upgrade at linebacker, there are still a few names available on the market. The number one target for them should be E.J. Speed. He's an inside linebacker who has shown flashes of being a reliable playmaker and would fit well within the Raiders' defensive scheme. He's primarily known as a run defender, but has the athleticism to hold his own in coverage. He's not a perfect replacement for Ellis, but he's the best available option if the Raiders don't want to give up draft assets in a trade. Another name to watch is Kyzir White. He's been a topic of discussion for a while now, and for good reason. White is a true sideline-to-sideline linebacker with excellent range, and he proved last season with Arizona that he can be a high-impact player. He finished the year with 137 tackles, showing his ability to be a tackling machine in the middle of the defense. His background with the Los Angeles Chargers also makes him a familiar name to those who have followed the AFC West closely. If the Raiders are looking for someone who can cover and play at a high level, White is a strong option. If the team is looking for a cheaper, younger option with potential, Chaz Surratt could be an interesting gamble. While he's not as proven as Ellis, he has shown flashes of being a solid contributor in limited reps. Last season, when he was forced into action with the New York Jets, he handled himself well. He's a project, but in a lot of ways, so was Ellis. If the Raiders believe they could develop Ellis into a key contributor, they might see similar potential in Surratt. Another potential option is Isaiah Simmons. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Simmons is ready to be a full-time starting linebacker in the NFL. But from a pure athleticism standpoint, he has a skill set that teams are always intrigued by. He's a hybrid player who can move all over the defense, and if the Raiders were willing to take a chance on developing Ellis, why not take that same risk with Simmons? He hasn't lived up to the expectations he had coming out of college, but with the right coaching staff, he could still be molded into a productive player. At the end of the day, the Raiders need to make a decision quickly. If they aren't going to make a trade for Ellis, then they have to add someone in free agency before the talent pool gets even thinner. Right now, the linebacker room is one of the weakest in the NFL, and that's a serious concern heading into the season. Elandon Roberts is a solid veteran, but he needs someone next to him who can cover. Right now, that player does not exist on the roster. One name to watch within the team is Amari Gaynor. He has a skill set similar to Ellis and could be asked to step up in a big way. He's shown solid coverage ability and has been spending a lot of time this offseason working with Max Crosby, which is always a good sign. Another potential option is Amari Burney, but his strength is more as a run defender than a coverage linebacker. The Raiders also have rookie Tommy Eichenberg, who might not have the same athleticism as the other two, but is known for his intelligence and ability to learn quickly. So the bad news is that Christian Ellis is staying with the Patriots. The question now is how the Raiders will respond. Will they make a trade for him? Will they sign a veteran linebacker like E.J. Speed or Kaiser White? Or will they trust the guys currently on the roster? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The Raiders need to make a move, and they need to do it soon. If the Las Vegas Raiders don't make a move soon, they could find themselves in a very tough position defensively. Losing out on Christian Ellis was a significant blow because the team had clearly identified him as a key piece for their linebacker core. But now that the Patriots have secured him for the next 2 seasons, the Raiders have to look at their next best options. Whether they decide to pursue a trade, bring in a free agent, or rely on their current roster, there's no doubt that something needs to be done. The biggest issue with standing pat and not adding another linebacker is that the Raiders' defense will be left dangerously thin at the position. Right now, Elandon Roberts is the only proven reliable linebacker on the roster. That's not to say that some of the younger guys don't have potential, but potential doesn't win games. If the Raiders go into the season without making an addition, they will be taking a massive risk, especially in a division with high-powered offenses like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. Looking at the current depth chart, it's easy to see why there's so much concern. Amari Burney and Amari Gaynor are the next 2 options after Roberts, but neither of them is a sure thing. Burney has been more effective as a run defender and special teamer, but his struggles in coverage make it difficult to trust him in a starting role. Gaynor, on the other hand, has the athleticism to be a coverage linebacker, but he's still unproven at the NFL level. Banking on him to step into a significant role would be a major gamble. Beyond those 2, the depth drops off even further. Tommy Eichenberg is an interesting player because he has strong instincts and a high football IQ, but his athletic limitations could make it tough for him to play every down. He's more of a run stopper than a coverage linebacker, which means he might only be useful in certain defensive packages. Then there are players like Kanai Mauga and Luke Masters who have yet to show that they can be reliable contributors on defense. This group, as it stands, is one of the most unproven linebacker units in the league. That's why bringing in a free agent makes the most sense. The Raiders still have some cap space to work with, so there's no reason not to invest in a player who can help solidify the defense. The ideal target remains E.J. Speed. His ability to make plays in both the run and pass game would give the Raiders much needed versatility at linebacker. Speed is a fast, aggressive defender who could complement Roberts well. The only potential roadblock is price. If Speed commands a contract in the $810 million per year range, the Raiders might hesitate to pay that much. But given their current situation, they may not have a choice. If Speed isn't an option, Kaiser White is another solid target. He has proven himself as a high-volume tackler who can cover sideline to sideline. White's experience in both the Chargers and Cardinals defensive systems makes him a valuable option for a team in need of a veteran presence. He's also shown that he can be effective in coverage, which is exactly what the Raiders need right now. If the Raiders are looking for a more affordable option, Chaz Surratt could be worth considering. While he's not as established as Speed or White, he has flashed potential in limited opportunities. Surratt was forced into action with the Jets last season and played surprisingly well in a small sample size. He's still a project, But if the Raiders are willing to develop him, he could end up being a quality contributor down the line. There's also the possibility of taking a chance on Isaiah Simmons. Simmons was once considered one of the most versatile defensive players in football, but he hasn't lived up to expectations. That being said, his athleticism is still elite, and if the Raiders are willing to put in the effort to develop him, he could become a valuable piece. Simmons is the type of player who, in the right system, could finally unlock his potential. Regardless of which direction the Raiders choose, they cannot afford to ignore the linebacker position. Whether it's through a trade-free agency or the draft, they need to make an addition sooner rather than later. The draft is always an option, but relying on rookies to step into key roles can be risky. With the amount of uncertainty at linebacker, the team would be better off securing a proven player instead of waiting for a rookie to develop. One of the biggest concerns with standing pat is the impact it could have on the defense as a whole. The Raiders' defensive scheme relies heavily on linebackers who can cover and play in space. If they go into the season without a true coverage linebacker next to Roberts, they will struggle against teams that use their running backs and tight ends effectively in the passing game. This is especially concerning in the AFC West, where Travis Kelce has been a nightmare matchup for years. If the Raiders don't add a linebacker who can help in coverage, it's going to be a long season for the defense. Another factor to consider is the leadership aspect. Elandon Roberts is a strong veteran presence, but he can't do it alone. The Raiders need another experienced player who can help set the tone on defense. That's another reason why bringing in a veteran like Speed or White would make so much sense. They could provide stability and leadership for a young linebacker group that desperately needs it. If the Raiders are hoping that one of their current players will step up and fill the void left by Ellis, they are taking a huge gamble. Amari Gaynor might be the best bet given his skill set and his work ethic this offseason. He has been training closely with Max Crosby, which is always a positive sign. Crosby is known for his relentless work ethic, and if Gaynor is following in his footsteps, that could mean good things for his development. Bernie, on the other hand, has shown flashes, but hasn't proven he can be a full-time starter. He's fast and athletic, but his struggles in coverage make him a liability in certain situations. If he's going to take on a bigger role, he will need to make significant improvements in that area. Eichenberg is another name to watch, but he profiles more as a run stopper than a true three-down linebacker. If the Raiders are looking for someone to replace Robert Spillane's leadership and intelligence, Eichenberg could be an option. However, his lack of elite speed could make it difficult for him to be effective in coverage. At the end of the day, the Raiders are in a tough spot. Losing Ellis hurt, but they still have time to find a solution. The question is, will they act quickly enough to fix the problem? If they wait too long, the best free agent options could be gone, and they may be forced to rely on their current roster. That's not an ideal scenario, but it's one they may have to face if they don't make a move soon. Whatever the decision, the front office needs to have a clear plan, whether it's trading for Ellis, signing a veteran, or trusting the young. Players already on the roster, they need to commit to a direction and execute it effectively. The season is approaching fast, and if the Raiders don't address their linebacker situation now, it could become one of their biggest weaknesses. Time is running out, and the pressure is on for them to make the right move. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders, and don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Could the Las Vegas Raiders be on the verge of making one of the biggest defensive acquisitions in recent history? Speculation is growing around the possibility of TJ Watt, the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive powerhouse, joining the Raiders to bolster their pass rush. While no official confirmation has surfaced, whispers from league insiders suggest that Las Vegas is keen on making a bold move to strengthen their defense, one that could send shockwaves through the AFC West. Watt, a dominant force in the NFL, has consistently proven himself as a game changer, racking up sacks at a historic pace. His potential arrival in Las Vegas would not only transform the Raiders' defensive unit, but also reshape the team's aspirations for postseason contention. With the Raiders seeking to close the gap on division rivals, adding a player of Watt's caliber could be the key to turning their fortunes around. But would Pittsburgh really consider parting ways with their star linebacker? The Steelers' stance on Watt's future remains unclear, yet the idea of a blockbuster trade cannot be dismissed. If the Raiders make an aggressive push, the decision could come down to financial flexibility and long-term strategy for both teams. Fans and analysts alike are eager for more details. Could this be the defining move that shifts the balance of power in the NFL? That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.